Right. Okay. We are here. Okay. So, welcome. This is season. Well, first, let's start here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Not years, not anything else. We're just going Happy New Year. And today is the season one, episode one of the G Spot, right? And so we're going to talk about some stuff today. And this is the first week. We talked about it being a rotating format. If you missed the pre pilot and the pilot, you can always go back. They are recorded, and you will get an idea of what we're doing. This is the first week of the new year, and we are talking about relationships this year. And we're going to, I think, any relationships can be um, serious, would best be started by talking about like the first institution, and that first institution, right, is marriage, right? I mean, and we don't want to get biblical, but I can't help but to talk about the Bible because that's where it come from. And I also was raised in a household, many households, and we practice many different spiritual, cultural, religious beliefs. And one of the institutions where relationships is the thriving institution is marriage. And so this week we're going to talk about the first people that I could think of that were, and there was many people that was married around me, but the one that sticks out to me is my great aunt and my great uncle, and they were Aunt Ann, Uncle Albert, right? And they were married, and for a number of years, as long as I can remember, um, they were very um, much in love with each other. I don't know if that makes sense. As a matter of fact, I had the rare treat of going to Uncle Albert's homegoing service, and everybody who was there would quote him as being and saying and knowing him too, he loved his Annie Lou, and that was really important for that to be um, part of his residential. You know, he loved his Annie Lou, and that stuck out to me. How could someone now? I need to talk about how long they were married. Now, I am 50 something years old, right? Yes, this will be one of the rare times that you'll hear me talk about my age. Um, I'm 50 something years old, and I went to his homegoing service I want to say 5 years ago. And so we're talking about my cousins, which were older than I am, right? And we're talking about a marriage that spanned the course of at least 4 decades, more, in excess of four, right? So you do the math. And when we talk about they don't make them like that anymore, like what happened to marriages like that? I know for me, being around right now, seeing marriages and seeing how people are and where they're at and what they're doing, and I don't see a lot of people being married like 40, 50 years, hell, even not even 10, 20. Not a lot. Not saying that it doesn't exist, but just not a lot. And it's not happening as often it's not as commonplace as it was when I was coming up, right? It wasn't something that you saw. Um, we talked about a lot of, we didn't hear a lot of words like orphan, bastard, yes, the B word. And that's going to be one of the topics that we tackle going down in the series, if not this series, if not this season, in later episodes, we will be talking about the bastard child, the orphan child, and how all of those things being from broken homes um, impact offsprings from that. So we're going to talk about that. So it's very, very important. But more importantly, it's important that we have a good idea of what we're doing here when we're talking about relationships. This is a living, breathing organism, as I always say. This thing is going to heat up. I'm definitely in an element that is out of my league, not out of my league, but out of my norm. But in a minute, everything that's new is going to become old, right? This new thing right here is going to become old, and your girl is going to be handling like a professional in a minute. I've had the opportunity to listen to bloggers, look at bloggers, and I got an idea of what I want to do. I see a vision of it, and I really, really want you to come along with me. Um, so, with that, it would be really, really great, if there were people on who could like chime in and talk about their experiences and their firsthand sightings with with the institution of marriage. Are you married? Was your mom and dad married? What about your grandma and your grandpa? What are your thoughts on it? Why do you feel like the institution of marriage is not being spoken of as much, or is not on the forefront as prevalent or as topic of discussion as it was when we were younger? Is it important? Is it still even important? Is it still the thriving institution that it was so made out to be years ago? And what they talk about in the Bible, the man and the woman becoming one. He who findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and the wife is to cling to her husband, and like the thing that is such important about marriage and to understand is and it's important to the offspring, and it's important to the community, and it's important to the family unit. Like, let's talk about that stuff. Some of the things when you come across this video, if you feel like you are have some information, we d- in earlier feeds we talked about you sending in the email and giving your thoughts and input on topics that could offshoot from this. And that's G underspot underspot underscore spot 829 at yahoo.com. That will be the email that you'll send all your queries to, that you'll send your questions to, that you'll send your input to, your thoughts, your ideas on what you would like to see when you log on to this page. What are some things about marriage that I find really, really? I know for me, I got an idea. I've seen a lot of marriages. Let me just say that I've seen a lot of marriages. I've seen functioning and not functioning, functional and dysfunctional. I've seeing marriages have given me an idea of the type of woman that I would like to be in a relationship and in a partnership, right? And all of which are contributing and important. They're vital components to the woman that I am sitting in front of you. So What say you? What do you think about that? Do you think that being around marriages or being seeing with seeing marriages and how they work and or don't work, have they made an impression upon you? Questions to ask yourself. If you're married now, do you think that being in a household where there was a marriage where your mom and dad was where a male and a female or two counterparts, two people working together as a unit to be the stewards over a family, is that something that contributed to you forming your opinions of what marriage is to you? These are questions that ought to be answered. And we'll revisit this topic again and again and again, as this is like the mini subpilot to the first week of going forward. Um, so many different things go into relationships, and the generations that come from them, and the people who experience them. So much, so much goes into it. And it's interesting to find out why and how people become and do what they do, how they do, as a as as marriage as their reference point, or their bookmark in their lives. I know for me, my mom and my dad were not married. They were not, and I came about a time when my mom was seeking out uh, housing, so to speak, and and so much goes into our history, my history as an African American woman, and it wasn't told to me in the school systems. How it was told to me, secondhand by different members of the community, and how my mom was looking for housing, and in looking for housing, it was referenced. There was a time when certain particular housing that we were going into, it was preference that you be married. And then as the time moved on, marriage wasn't so much of a defining or a main talking point to gain housing. And me and my mom and my brothers, we were able to get subsidized housing under a subsidy program, and we were able to live. And it was a single parent household, and thus bringing birth to the single parent household. And I saw that became a commonplace around me, to the point, so much so to the point where it became normal. And when we talk about normalcy, there's a state of normalcy that it presents itself when that which was new at one point presents itself over and over again and again and again and again, or saturates your being, saturates the person's being, and then that becomes normal. So I went from a place of knowing marriages, people being in the institution of marriage and being parents, to actually it being okay of being a single parent household. And my mom had began to become acquainted with other women who stewards over lives, and they were single parent householders and went to work, and were responsible for preparing the meals, and so much so, like having dual heads over the household, like the two parenting dual parenting roles. Now, when we say that dual parenting, dual roles in the household, do we actually mean that they were the mother and the father? To a degree. To a degree, my mom was the mom and the dad. That's speaking from a young, developing mindset. But now that I'm older, like there's nothing that can replace the male role model. What do you think about that? Is it possible for a woman or a man, because there are men that are, single parents as well, is it possible for them to be dual parents in the household? I need your thoughts on that. Or is it just possible to be a single parent over a household who is navigating from that vantage point? So it's very important. These things were very, very important. And I was trying to, these are some talking points that we talk about. Now I want to go back to Annie and Al and Annie, right? Annie and Al, they were living in Newark, just like myself, impoverished community, right? The difference between that was that um, they wound up moving to a rural community, right, in a house, right, and with a boiler system and several floors and grass and a front yard and a backyard and a driveway and you know it was just so different when I visited them for the holidays and or summer vacation. It was just such a different experience. And it was different seeing my uncle Albert getting up and going to work, and my aunt staying home, who was a stay-at-home mom and or wife, and she tended to house and she had her job function. And I witnessed him bring his paycheck home, and I witnessed her manage the funds, and I witnessed her give him his monetaries for the week, and I witnessed all of this, and it was just such an awe-inspiring experience. Now, let me tell you what I witnessed of their offspring. Every one of the offspring, right, college educated, right? My mom came from a single household. My grandma, high school was suffice, but two-parent household, college educated, right? Opportunities availed them. One of my cousin's opportunities that availed him. He had the opportunity to play for the NBA. Another opportunity availed another cousin, offspring of that said union, was that they were able to, she was able to pursue, a career as beautiful boys, was able to pursue a career in such. Another opportunities were presented. So much more, and I see the difference. Choices were made, right? Choices were made, and people, my cousins were good upbringing. And that's not to say that I was not a good upbringing, but they definitely had more opportunities than myself. Does that make sense? Um, what are your thoughts on that? People from dual parent households are afforded more opportunities. Just a talking point. Just a talking point. Once again, the email G underscore spot 829 at yahoo.com. You can also send your comments in through this venue. I'm also on Facebook. Let's talk about this. This is so important. Next week, I want to just talk about this because we're coming up on the 30-minute mark. Next week, we're going to be talking about clinically speaking. That's a working title. Also, clinically speaking speaks to what it is I do. We'll have some talking points. There will be times that I plan to have guests, on professionals, clinical professionals in the vital fields that I work in, that I'm associated with, supplement and complementary to what it is I do. The week after that, we're going to be talking about, and I want to get them on here, A&E. Once again, another working title. Uh, our pal Sal, and then we're going to be talking about talking to soul to soul. Those will be my two resident experts. We're going to have like so much fun. I'm looking so forward to that week because that will be the week that you will see the wild side, wild child side of your girl. And that's because I so love the arts, so much so. Um, what are we doing that week? I don't know. We're just gonna just jump right in. And then there's the fourth week, and we got the interview that I've been like really drumming up because I do know what that's going to be about. And we're talking to Kettlebell Shell, how she came to be, how she came to. You really, really want to come back for that. So if you have any ideas for interviews of people who are considered by society's vein or society's perception to be just ordinary Joes, but are doing extraordinary things, you know, G underscore spot, right? 829 at yahoo.com. Drop their name in, drop their information in. Let us reach out to them. Let us schedule them for an interview on the G spot for the fourth week of a month. This is season one. This is the new year. I can't wait to see what this thing shakes up into. You guys enjoy your day. You definitely deserve it, and you definitely deserve it if you are pursuing it. Until we meet and speak again.